we need to come to a realization of who we are. And it's sad that so many people go to church and their concept of God is a God who's up there, a God who's far away, a God who basically, if we make a mistake, is going to beat us for it. And then if we get sick, it's something we've done wrong, or our parents did wrong, or if things go wrong, what's God trying to tell me? Well, I've got news for you. My Bible says, time and chance happeneth to every man. It's just, you live in a world where time and chance happen. And in Jesus' day, the disciples came and asked a question. You know, the Tower of Siloam fell on people. Hey, you know, Jesus said, do you think they were bigger sinners than anyone else? They just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It happened. And there's a lot of people, wrong place, wrong time. You say, well, God's in control of everything. Why didn't he stop it? Well, let me tell you this. He orders all things after the counsel of his own will. And his ways aren't our ways. His thoughts aren't our thoughts. And sometimes he does peculiar things because he's God. And he's really got the best intentions for you. Everything will work together for good. Always, to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose, not your purpose, his. And you've got to understand that our God is a supreme being who's eternal. And therefore, what happens down here isn't really that important. Really isn't. Because he's working everything out after the counsel of his own will. And I want to tell you, no matter what you do, God will not topple off his throne. He really won't. And he won't lose control. And he won't miss it. And what he's begun, he'll perfect. And he'll always do what's good. Because he's good God. So we want to look, and if you turn with me to John 16, first of all. We're going to stay in John for quite a bit. John 16 and verse 27 says this. For the Father himself loveth you, he's talking to his disciples, because you have loved me and have believed that I came out from God. I came forth from the Father and am come into the world. Again, I leave the world and go to the Father. One of the most important things to understand about Jesus is he knew who he was before he was born of a Virgin Mary. He knew exactly where he came from. He knew his Father. And on his earthly pilgrimage, he said, look, I know I came from the Father. I know I'm going back to Father. I know. And he said, because you've loved me, my Father loves you. And he wanted people to know, and he always spoke of God as his Father. And it's so important to understand, he wasn't ever calling God God, he called him Father. And he introduced the Elohim that the Jews called God. He said, no, Father is my Father. And you'll find it, and we want to just talk about it. Jesus knew. He said, look, I came from him, I'm going to him. Now, every single person who's truly born again and birthed of the Spirit of God knows his origins and knows his destiny and realizes that we're living in a time between both. That's all. And you're totally aware of your sonship. And if you're not, well, you're just not a Christian. But that's we'll come to in a minute. John 17, verse 3 says this, "And this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. I have glorified thee on earth. I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. And now, O Father, glorify thou me with thine own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was." He knew all about eternity. He said, hey, before the world ever was, glorify me with that glory. He understood. Many, many people think that Jesus, when he came to earth, he was human, and they forget he was divine, and they forget he understood his divinity. He understood who he was. He understood who Father was. He understood eternity. He knew everything. So when he was walking on earth, he wasn't walking on earth with fears and doubt. He had absolute certainty. Hey, I know from whence I've come. I know where I'm going. And only a Christian who's come to that place of rest in God lives at a peace and knows that we're here but for a short span. And the glorious thing is, I know from whence I came. I know to whom I go. I'm his child. I was always in him before the foundation of the world. And you know it as reality. That's what makes the difference between a religious person and a Christian. I meet a lot of religious people, very few who know who they are. Is that plain? Hello? Yes. Is that plain? Yes. Let's go on. John's Gospel, chapter 1. Verse 17 says this, "For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. No man has seen God at any time, but the only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him." The one thing Jesus came to do was reveal the heart of the Father to people. The Jewish nation just had a wrong concept of God. All the laws of God they changed into the precepts of man. They didn't understand relationship. They were appalled when God was revealed as Father. And when Jesus kept calling him Father, man, it made them mad. And the whole purpose of Christ coming to earth was to reveal the very nature of God. Now, the nature of God is to heal the sick. The nature of God is to be our provider. I'm talking about God the Father. It's his nature. It always was his nature. Before the covenants were, it was his nature. Do understand that. Once you start dividing everything up, you lose sight of what's true. Now look, the lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world was slain to deal with sin.